Walmart, the largest retailer in the U.S., has asked its Chinese suppliers to start sending goods again. This is being interpreted as a sign that the mood in the stalled U.S. China trade is changing.
According to a report by the South China Morning Post SCMP on the 29th, exporters in Jiangsu and Zhejiang provinces in China recently received notices from Walmart to resume shipments to the United States. This measure came after former President Donald Trump mentioned the possibility of lowering tariffs on China, and there is speculation that U.S. China trade negotiations are imminent. An official from a stationery and office supplies exporter located in Ningbo, Zhejiang Province said, until a few weeks ago, U.S. customers were canceling or postponing orders, but recently Walmart has notified us to resume shipments. The official also said, "I heard that the U.S. will bear the burden of the new tariffs," and reported that U.S. distributors are starting to move in earnest to resume imports of Chinese products, even if they have to bear the burden of tariffs. Another exporter from Jiangsu Province also said that they received a request from the U.S. to prepare for a recovery in demand. Paul Tai, CEO of Imminent, an exporter of clothing hangers and shopping bags, said, although orders in April decreased by more than 40% compared to the same period last year, major U.S. distribution companies have recently started sending notices to resume orders, adding, "This is a very welcome change." In particular, many Chinese suppliers have reportedly changed their delivery terms from DDP, delivered duty paid, to FOB free on board due to this incident. The FOB method is interpreted as a defensive measure by China against tariff volatility and trade uncertainty, as the U.S. importer assumes all costs and risks after shipment. The SCMP pointed out that former President Trump imposed an additional 145% tariff on Chinese products earlier this month, raising the total tariff rate to 156%, and some items were subject to a tariff of as much as 245%. China has also imposed a 125% tariff on U.S. imports. However, some are interpreting the two countries as getting closer to reaching a trade deal, as former President Trump recently mentioned that he might lower the tariffs, and claimed to have had a phone call with President Xi Jinping. In response, Chinese authorities denied this, saying that there was no official phone call between the two leaders. But Walmart's request to resume shipments is interpreted as evidence that something is going on. Xu Weijin, a researcher at Guangzhou Southern University of Science and Technology, analyzed that Walmart's decision reflects the pressure from major U.S. companies that the Trump administration should end the trade war. However, he warned that Chinese companies should still maintain emergency measures in preparation for the possibility of unpredictable policy changes by former President Trump.
Walmart's request to resume shipments could be a signal of change in the stagnant U.S.-China trade flow. However, with political uncertainty still high in both countries, it remains to be seen whether this will lead to a real thaw.